How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to the New York Jets franchise on Madden 20. We've gone through the off-season that was live streamed this past Saturday to YouTube. You can catch the full 3.5-hour video if you'd like. It'll be on the channel for a bit longer here. But if not, I've condensed the off-season down into a 36-minute highlight video here that just showcases the important signings and draft picks and the trades that went on during this offseason as the 8-8 New York Jets look to improve their roster for a playoff push in year 3. This team took several strides forwards thanks to a strong offseason last year, and we're looking to continue the upward trajectory of this team as a whole. We had a pretty good start to the season, and then we just didn't play our best football down the stretch. But a 7-win improvement over our season from a year ago is certainly nothing to be sneezed at. The other New York team, the Giants, bring home the Lombardi Trophy this year. They won 24-21 over the Cleveland Browns as Daniel Jones brings home MVP honors in Super Bowl 55. We've got a ways to go before we're at that level, and it starts by taking a look at some of the older players on our roster. 31-year-old Ryan Griffin, our tight end 2 from last year. He lost 10 attribute points, but I think he'll still be able to play in that tight end 2 role. His catching is decent, even if his speed isn't great. CJ Mosley only loses 4 attribute points. Marcus May goes down 2. He's a pending free agent whose future with the team is somewhat in the air. I felt like he played okay for us last year, but didn't make enough big plays in order to justify us keeping him around when he's going to start to regress even steeper after this season. Arthur Mullett goes down 4 attribute points as well. His speed goes down by 1. Bradley McDougald only loses 8, but he's also a pending free agent that is unlikely to be with the team next year. Josh Jackson goes down 5, entering his age 28 season. We had a lot of older players here who regressed. Alex Lewis goes down 6. He's also a free agent and is unlikely to return. So we kind of have a changing of the guard here. There's several starters and or depth role players that will need to be replaced going forward. Vince Beagle goes down 6. He's 28 years old as well. Greg Zuerlein only goes down 2. Chris Manners, our third tight end, goes down 10 attribute points as well. And I think the only player here that is a pending free agent that I was seriously considering offering again to was Vince Beagle. He's 74 overall, and he was second on the team in sacks last year. And I don't think he regressed that much, but we'll see what kind of a deal he wants. I'd be open to bringing him back on a 1-year deal, but if he wants big money or more than 1 year, I don't know how likely I would be to bite at that. Some retirements: guard Tom Compton, left tackle Jason Peters, Julian Edelman, and former Patriot Tom Brady retire, along with Alex Smith and Steven Gostowski. Matt Bryant and John Ryan also retire. There weren't a whole lot of retirements this offseason, but it's certainly the end of an era as TB12 hangs them up, possibly for the final time. Here's a look at our pending free agents. Most of these players will likely be on a new team next year or testing free agency long term, but there are a few players such as Colleen Bellage that I had a lot of interest in bringing back. I thought Bellage played well for us down the stretch, and he was the person I started off negotiations with first. I didn't want a super long-term deal, given how short running back careers tend to be, but he was quite durable for us, and I offered a little bit less than a fair deal, and he decides to test free agency. I then decided to try and re-sign Denzel Mims to, again, a lower contract. He didn't see the field for us a whole lot last year, and while he's just 24 years old, he hasn't distinguished himself on the roster as someone who's capable of stepping into a larger role. So I lowballed him on a 2-year deal, and like Colleen Bellage, he decides to head to free agency. Next up was Marcus May, our free safety. He was our second leading tackler from a year ago, and I didn't want to spend a whole lot of money on him, but he didn't ask for a whole lot, so I gave him a little bit more than what the fair deal was, and he also decides to test free agency. That was a surprise, but it will leave a hole in our secondary at the free safety position. Arthur Mullett was our cornerback 3 a year ago. However, he is 28 years old and the speed went down, so I decided not to bring him back. I think there are younger players around his skill level that will be available either in free agency or in the draft. Jordan Jenkins likewise didn't see the field a lot for us last year, so I've decided to move on from him. Boston Scott, however, was a player that I was very interested in bringing back. He handled kick and punt return duties for us, and we ink him for another 3 years with an extension. Xavier McKinney, the backup free safety, now becoming a little bit more valuable. So I give him a 3-year deal worth almost $6 million, and he accepts. He's not quite as sure of a tackler as Marcus May, but he's not a bad starter for us either. Next, I turn my attention to Lawrence Cager. He's listed as a tight end, but only for sets that have an isolated tight end out of the shotgun. Like we've got one where there's a tight end on one side of the field, and they usually match up with cornerbacks, and I wanted someone a little bit faster to line up out there, so I moved him to tight end. But he's actually pretty decent as a tight end, so I give him a 4-year deal worth $17 million, and he decides to stay a New York Jet. I then turn my attention to Quincy Wilson. He's a younger cornerback. He's only 25 years old, and we only have 2 corners on the roster right now after letting go of Arthur Mullett. So I decided to offer him a 3-year deal worth just over $8 million. He was good on special teams for us a year ago, and he decides to stay a New York Jet as well. So some moves made in the secondary here to retain some younger players over their veteran counterparts. But then I went to Vince Beagle. He wanted a 3-year deal worth almost $24 million, and his production was pretty good last year, but he's 28 years old and wasn't a dominant pass rusher for us. So I decided not to bring him back. We're going to take our chances and see if we can't bolster up that right outside linebacker position in free agency, because there aren't a lot of great edge rushers in the draft. Who headlines the free agent class this year? We're going to have to be careful with our money as we go in with under $30 million in cap space. But Evan Engram and Marshawn Lattimore are the top 2. And interestingly enough, Marshawn Lattimore and Trevon Diggs, the 2 top corners in this very deep cornerback free agent class, were only drawing middling interest from teams. Lattimore didn't have any offers thus far, and Diggs had gotten a decent deal offered to him from our division rivals, the Buffalo Bills. Diggs is only 23 years old. He does great range and does a good job making up ground in coverage. I had interest in him. Keanu Neil, the hard-hitting, strong safety. He's got pretty good instincts and an excellent hit power. He could step into a starting spot. Interior offensive line is in need for us, and David Andrews highlights the center class, although it might be difficult to afford him given our limited cap space. Likewise, right guard Tyree Phillips is the best guard in the free agent class. There's a pretty strong bidding war going on for him right now, as I had interest in trying to shore up either our center or our right guard positions in free agency here, because there are a couple of prospects I was also targeting in the draft. The first contract I offered was to right end Kaylavon Chazen, the former Jacksonville Jaguars, just 22 years old, and I think he's got an upside that could allow us to put him on the outside, right outside linebacker position, so we offer him a deal. And then I take a look at the cornerback class. We're moving on from Arthur Mullett, and someone like Marshawn Lattimore, who has no interest thus far. He's just 25 years old. He's one of the better cornerbacks out there. I couldn't believe that there weren't more teams interested in his services. He could step in and bolster our secondary immediately. He's 3 years younger than Arthur Mullett and a lot more talented and has star development. So we decided to offer him a deal worth just over $12 million a year. 5 years, $66 million. And that's a little bit low based off what he could probably command from other teams, but again, no competition. However, we would have plenty of competition for the services of right guard Tyree Phillips. He's 25 years old, coming off a pretty solid season, and the bidding for him was not cheap. And we struggled to try and put together a package that was enticing to him, as we were also kind of running low on cap space at this point. It might be a really small free agent haul for us, as even with a really solid deal there, we're getting up to Marshawn Lattimore money here, $11 million a year. Isn't even putting us in first place for his services. Tyree Phillips would allow us to do a lot more runs to the right side of the line, where Colton Mikovits really struggled in the power run game and in pass protection a year ago, and would take the pressure off of us to fill 2 offensive line starting positions in the draft. A 6-year, $67 million offer is what it takes to put us in the driver's seat for Tyree Phillips, but it leaves us dangerously low on cap space. So after round 1, we're making offers to Lattimore, Phillips, and Chazen. But there's one more bit of business. Le'Veon Bell on his large contract, combined with the low amount of production we've gotten from him the last couple of years, meant that he was prime candidate for a trade, and I wanted to trade him away to preferably an NFC team so we wouldn't have to face him too often. And after going through most of the teams here and trying to discern a fit, and a good fit, I decided to try and offer him to the Arizona Cardinals for a 2nd round pick in the upcoming draft. Le'Veon Bell would get a chance to chase a ring there with DeAndre Hopkins and Kyler Murray, and we get to build more for the future as that trade goes through. So that might give us a little bit more wiggle room in the current and future years for signing free agents as we advance a week and see if any of our 3 offers are accepted. I'm pretty sure that Lattimore will sign and Chazen, but I'm not so sure about Tyree Phillips because there's a pretty good bidding war going for him as we get Perriman back from injury and see that all 3 of our free agent targets have accepted their contracts. This team is getting younger and more talented. Some other signings around the league: Evan Engram, the Super Bowl winning tight end, joins the Colts. Trevon Diggs will practice opposite his brother in Buffalo. We'll face him twice a year. That's a really solid secondary. Him across from Tre'Davious White. Not looking forward to that. Sheldon Rankins signs with the Cardinals. Keanu Neil signs with the Jaguars. David Andrews, the former Patriot, heads over to Cincinnati. James Conner goes to the Jaguars as well. They were active in free agency. Jalen Guyton joins Stephon Diggs in Buffalo for a powerful 1-2 punch. They can both stretch the field. Takaris McKinley signs with the Super Bowl runners-up. He'll play opposite Myles Garrett. Tariq Cohen goes to the football team to give Dwayne Haskins another weapon. Carl Lawson signs with Baltimore. Zach Cunningham goes to the Bears. Nickel Robbie Coleman will go play that position in the Mile High City. Marcus May signs with Cleveland. They're bolstering their defense for another Super Bowl run. Earl Thomas will team up with Mash Johnson in Las Vegas. Baltimore's defense gets even better. The Raiders invested heavily in their defense in the free agency period. They added Earl Thomas as well as Derek Barnett to play next to Mash Johnson on that defense. We'd see some signings for the Miami defense as well, including Dean Lowry on the interiors. But there's one more player I wanted to have a go at signing. That's halfback Jonathan Taylor. He's a home run hitter of a running back, and given that we traded Le'Veon Bell and failed to re-sign Colleen Bellage, I wanted someone to split carries with Willie Sparks. He had substantial interest from the Washington football team, but we had some cap space left, and I put together a 4-year, $25 million offer. Make that 5 years, $31 million. And that put us in the driver's seat for his services as combine numbers were out and we took a look ahead to the NFL draft. I didn't address the wide receiver position in free agency, and that was an area that I did want to take a look at in the draft. We've got 2 first-round picks and 2 second-round picks, and they're players like Gilbert Jordan, who have good hands and good route running ability. Anthony Bell, similar build, definitely a deep threat there. But my favorite was Lewis Moorhead, 22 years old, gets off the line and can run deep. He has excellent speed as well. So I was targeting him in the early or middle second round. But with one of my first round picks, we still need a center or a right guard. We signed Tyree Phillips, who'll play one of those 2 positions, but someone like Kerry Feldman or Benjamin Burks were people I was targeting with one of our first round picks, and I started liking Burks a little bit more than Feldman just because of its bench press performance. Speaking of bench press, Thurman Rich, the left end from Texas, had 41 reps along with a run-stopping build that made me seriously consider him with our second overall pick. I wasn't really looking to add defensive tackle, but that was an area that could be upgraded, and I'd love a good run stopper. Juwan Raymond was the consensus number 1 overall pick. He was a little bit slower than I was hoping for, but he still has an excellent nose for the ball and had a good combine. Thomas Harper is a blazing cornerback from Ohio State with a pretty good build as well. I liked his suite of skills. There were a lot of left ends with excellent athletic showings at the combine, such as Landry Walker, who had a great 40 and good bench press. Carlos Landry was a defensive tackle who can get after the passer. He's an athlete as well that had a very good combine performance. Middle linebacker is a need in a couple of years because C.J. Mosley is getting older, and there's plenty of good middle linebackers in this class. Justin Herrera, Bigsby Billington, and T.H. Butte, which you'll see in a minute, joined Dustin Taylor as the top prospects in this class. Bigsby Billington is more of a run stopper. He didn't quite have the range I was looking for, but he had mid-first round talent at a very deep position. Dustin Taylor might slide as well, as he's more of the rangy middle linebacker that I'd look for in a 3-4 scheme. I also liked Marion Marriott from Penn State. He had an excellent combine and would play one of the safety positions opposite Stephen Donnelly if we make him a part of our team through the NFL draft this offseason. But then it was time to go on and see if we could woo Jonathan Taylor. We were ahead in the bidding war for his services, and I was pretty sure that we were going to bring him to join our team. However, he decides to spurn our offer and become a member of the Washington football team. He took less money for a chance to play in our nation's capital. So that was a bit of a surprise and a bit of a disappointment, and we started taking a look at other running backs. Colleen Bellage was still out there, but he wasn't interested in coming to us on a cheap deal. He wanted at least 4 years, and I didn't really want to give that to him. So in the absence of us finding a good power running back or a running back 2 to pair with Willie Sparks, I didn't sign anyone or make any more offers. There were other things keeping my attention, such as whether or not to pick up Sam Darnold's 5th-year option. And I debated on this for a while. I feel like Sam Darnold's play significantly improved last year. He made more consistent plays than we've seen from him a year ago. But on the other hand, he's still not really proven anything. He's not proven that he can be an NFL starting quarterback. So I was okay with considering declining this option because I want to see him beat out LaMarcus Albert for a job this season. So after talking it over with chat and just talking it over with myself, I decided to decline Sam Darnold's 5th-year option, and he will be a free agent at the end of this coming season, as he might have started his last season for the Jets. And we're going to see if he can beat out LaMarcus Albert for the quarterback position. And if not, maybe he is on a new team by mid-season. I then start looking into the draft for potential running backs to pair with Willie Sparks. none of the free agent signees really excited me, and I wanted to bring in a power back. So I started scouting power backs like Isaiah Perryman and Reggie Bishop. And Reggie Bishop actually, even though he had an undrafted projection, he had mid-4th round talent or late 4th round talent, so I added him to the watch list and tab him as someone who we might want to pick up in the draft to add to the running back room. We don't really have a power running back anymore on the roster, so with the end of free agency, it's time to take a look at the league signings and focus our attention on the draft. We don't make any other moves besides signing Kayvon Chazen, Marshawn Lattimore, and Tyree Phillips. So we head into the draft with needs at center, wide receiver, running back, and safety. Those were the areas I really wanted to address in the draft, as our team looks like this. I think our front seven is the best front we've fielded so far this year. Our secondary is stronger with the addition of Marshawn Lattimore, but I'm not sold on Xavier McKinney as a starting safety. I think Donnelly can play above his ratings, but we'll see. We pick number 2 thanks to the Las Vegas Raiders, and we don't have to wait very long, as the number 1 team in terms of draft order, the Denver Broncos make Jawan Raymond the number 1 overall pick. It was at this point that I realized that I didn't really love any of the prospects at this point in the draft. Not that there weren't good players available. Thomas, Harper, Thurman, Rich were all excellent players. But I didn't feel like the value that we'd be spending this pick on would match the players that I wanted. Yeah, there were people like Gilbert Jordan, who had early first-round talent, but that's not the skill set I'm looking for in a wide receiver right now. I'd love someone who could get off the line a little bit better. I didn't feel like any of the players who were projected to go early in the first round were at positions of need for us, and that we might be better served to trade back. Even like Marion Marriott, who's projected to go in the late first round. Kerry Feldman's a late first rounder with mid-first round talents. I just didn't feel like the value is here for us to spend our second overall pick on even someone like Benjamin Burks. I felt confident he was going to be here later on in the draft. He's a top right guard in the draft, but he's low on a lot of people's boards. So I started looking for trade options, and there were a lot of tantalizing offers, but the safest one got us a future second and a future third. And we swapped picks with Pittsburgh and moved back 3 spots. Confident that the players that I wanted would still be available at number 5. They take Thomas Harper. Jacksonville had a difficult season. Their offense struggled to move the ball. They go wide receiver Anthony Bell from Louisville. With the 4th pick in the 2021 NFL Draft, the Detroit Lions take Gilbert Jordan, wide receiver from USC. That's an excellent pick. And then it was our turn. There weren't any good trade options, and I had my eye on 3 players that I wanted to take a look at in the first round. Safety Marion Marriott, center Kerry Feldman, and right guard Benjamin Burks. Burks was the only one with early first-round talent and was at a position of need in the interior offensive line. So after some deliberation, I decided to make Benjamin Burks the newest New York Jet. We pick him number 5 in true talent. He drafted at number 5 overall, so excellent value for that pick. And he's got a skill set that will slide right into the interior of our offensive line and should help in both the run and the pass game. I think with time he'll be an upgrade over Connor McGovern at the center position, and he's got hidden development as well. Then I accidentally skipped ahead, so you're seeing these in posterity. 1 pick at a time. Instead of simming to the next pick, I simmed to next user pick, which wasn't that big of a deal because we picked again at 14. And there are some left ends going off the board: Julian Joseph, Landry Walker, and then a whole bunch of middle linebackers as well. But when we were around to pick number 14, the player that I was targeting at this position was still available. Strong safety Marion Marriott from Penn State, mid-first round talent. He had an excellent combine, and he's 74 overall, hidden development, number 13 in true talent. And his skill set, while not outrageously strong in any one area, also is devoid of any weaknesses. He's decent at everything, and he's still quite young. He's got that hidden dev. I think he's going to develop into an excellent safety. I think I'll slide him over to free safety and see how he does filling the departed Marcus Maye's shoes. The first round continued. It was a good start to the draft for us. I felt like we got excellent value for the picks that we were making, and they're also at positions of need. I didn't feel like we were forcing any of our picks at this point. Our next pick was midway through the second round as center Kerry Feldman goes to protect Madison Hakiba in Indianapolis. I had my sights set on a wide receiver in round 2, and some of them started going off the board, but I was confident that our guy would be there midway through the second round. Middle linebacker Teehee Butte goes to Miami at pick number 25. He's going to be a special player. We'll take a look at his skill set after the draft is over. I'm not looking forward to facing him twice a year. I thought about trading up at the beginning of the second round, but the wide receiver I was targeting, Lewis Moorhead, was still ranked quite low on most mocks. Unfortunately, I skipped ahead again by accident. It was just mistakes on my part. Didn't mean to skip ahead. I wanted to go pick by pick, but Lewis Moorhead ends up going round 2, pick 13, which is one pick before we would have drafted him. So now it puts a question as to who we're going to draft. I feel like Harry Arrieta was the best player available at this point, but quarterback is not a position of need, so I started looking at players like Eugene Hilbert at the wide receiver position. He had the best release of the remaining wide receivers. He's got pretty good hands and a decent 40 time, and I compared him with Evan Bayer, who had similar talent, but decided to go for Eugene Hilbert, round 2, pick 14, and this ended up being a little bit of a reach. He's 68 overall, normal development, doesn't have any glaring weaknesses, but also doesn't have a big strength to lean on either. So we'll see how he does in terms of competing for playing time on this roster as a rookie. Our next pick was round 2, pick 21. We received this from the Cardinals in the Le'Veon Bell trade, and Harry Arrieta was still on the board. He's 24 years old, but he ran a pretty good 40. He's got excellent throw power and throw accuracy towards the middle of the field. He's got late first round talent, and somehow he has slid to the bottom third of the second round. I went back and forth on this pick. I didn't want to take a quarterback when we had two 24-year-old quarterbacks on the roster already. We drafted LaMarcus Albert last year, but it didn't feel like there were a lot of other good options at this position in terms of true talent. I kept coming back to Harry Arrieta as being the best player available, round 2, pick 21. I kind of reluctantly made this pick, but I think it'll be good for the team going forward. At worst, he's a very good backup quarterback, 71 overall, hidden development. He's got good accuracy numbers, and at best, he could push LaMarcus Albert for the starting job going forward if Sam Darnold is unable to impress this year. Remember, we declined his 5th-year option, so it's unlikely Darnold is back next year. So now we've got a potential surplus of options at the quarterback position. In the third round, I wanted to pick a defensive tackle, and they started going off the board. I tried to trade up with Pittsburgh, and it took a third, one of our 3 4th-round picks, and one of our 2 7th-round picks to move up a couple of spots to select a defensive tackle. And this ended up being a more difficult decision than I expected. I had my eye on defensive tackle Merrill Hudson, a run stopper from Baylor, but Rakeem Winston also popped. He's a bit shorter than Hudson, but he turned a better combine, and they had similar skill sets. Hudson with a little bit better nose for the football, but Rakeem Winston had better true talent. So after a lot of deliberation, Rakeem Winston joins the New York Jets. 71 overall, normal development. He's got a balanced skill set, good strength, decent block shedding, decent power moves, excellent speed for a defensive tackle, so he could play left or right end, and I think he will get some playing time as a rookie. In round 4, I decided it was time to take Reggie Bishop. He's an undrafted projection, but late 4th round talent, and I didn't really want to take the chance that the best power back at this point in the draft was going to not fall into our laps towards the end of the draft. It was a bit of a reach, 63 overall. He's got good speed, but does not exactly bring these same strengths that Colleen Bellage did for us last year, so we'll see what kind of a role he gets on the team. Our second 4th round pick is used on fullback Dylan Beckham. He's a blocking fullback that will contrast with Keelan Culver, so I think they will have a good position battle at the fullback position. In round 5, pick 14, I decided again to go wide receiver and took Sean Holloway out of Lafayette. He's got good strengths in his route running ability. The hands need some work. So we'll see if he makes the active roster as a rookie or if he will get some time on the practice squad. In round 6, I took a look at offensive line. Tracy Medlin was one of the better picks available at this time in the draft. Unfortunately, he's not that good in run or pass blocking, so we'll see how his development goes if he even cracks the roster after a couple of years of work. And then with our final pick, I'd take speed rusher James Porter. I didn't scout him, but he had the speed rusher archetype, and we need another left outside linebacker after losing a couple in the offseason, so he'll be depth, maybe special teams players. But there are some special players in this draft. Jawan Raymond, not that fast, but he's an excellent press man cornerback with good hit power. He might be more of a safety, to be honest. The zone coverage is a bit low, but he's number 1 overall for a reason. Thomas Harper went number 2. He's got 97 speed. That forgives a lot of sins. Decent coverage skills that will get better with time. Good catching. He's a good player. Anthony Bell went number 3 overall, and he's going to get open. He's going to be a favorite target, whoever is slinging the rock in Jacksonville. Gilbert Jordan went number 4 overall, the rookie out of USC. Again, a pretty strong route runner. Hands aren't the best, but he's going to play well. Thurman Rich was one of my favorite prospects. He slid a little bit further than I expected, but he's going to be an anchor in Washington's 3-4 scheme, 93 strength. Bigsby Billington was a player I had my eye on. He is more of a run stopper than a pass coverage specialist, which is why I didn't value him that high on my draft board. Landry Walker. There were a lot of good left ends in this class, and they all had very similar skill sets. With end not being a position of need for us, I kind of got to let other teams take them, but there is some really solid defensive ends, all with good strength, decent speed, some block shedding, and pass rushing ability. I think it was a good draft for us, especially with our first couple of picks. I think we really hit the nail on the head, and we made the right decision, in my opinion, when it comes to the Kerry Feldman versus Benjamin Burks debate, as Feldman only has 78 strength, even though he's got a little bit better intangibles. Defensive tackle Carlos Landry was another player I had my eye on. Not surprised that he didn't make it out of the first round, as he will be next to J.J. Watt in Houston. As that does it for the first round, let's take a look at Lewis Moorhead. This is a player I had my eye on. 22 years old, hidden development, blazing speed, 92 release. The hands need a bit of work, but he's going to be a deep threat that can get off the line like no one else. Brody Thomas was the other quarterback that I thought was draftable in this class. He's got a good arm, but the actually needs a bit of work. But he goes to the Denver Broncos, so we'll see if he gets the start there. Merrill Hudson was the other defensive tackle I liked. I think we actually got the better player, as Rakeem Winston is stronger. The Bills took cornerback Tyrone Taylor with their pick in the first round alongside Tre'Davious White and Trevon Diggs. That's not going to be a fun secondary to play against. They also doubled down on defense, taking left end Donald Savage in the second round. That was an excellent pick for them, as he's going to be a ferocious pass rusher with a little bit of work. That is a good draft for the Bills. A good offseason for them, too. I mentioned Teehee Butte was going to be a special player. He's only 6'1", 230, but he's got 92 speed. He's not the best tackler, but he's good at getting off blocks. He's got excellent zone coverage. He's got good awareness, good pursuit, good finesse moves. He's going to be a strength in a 3-4 scheme. I'm not looking forward to playing him. He's just going to take away the middle of the field. He's a sideline-to-sideline defender. Excellent pick by Miami. The Patriots, however, didn't do that good in terms of true talent. They took Elaine Foster, who's only 67 overall and needs a lot of work on his route running. He is, however, a big physical wide receiver, so we'll see how he develops in New England. Our team right now looks like this. I moved Benjamin Burks to center as he had higher awareness than Tyree Phillips and seemed more open to the move. So I think our offense is in a position to take a step forward, and our defense definitely got stronger with the addition of Kayvon Chazen and Marshawn Lattimore. We'll see how our young safeties hold up. Marion Marriott will move over to free safety, and Stephen Donnelly will get a long look at the starting strong safety position after impressing in limited playing time last year. So that's it for this off-season recap. Thank you all so much for watching. I can't wait to get going on the preseason here. I think quarterback is going to be the biggest position battle, and I honestly can't wait. So let me know what you guys think about the offseason in the comments down below. And as always, I will catch you next time. Have a good one, everybody.